Hey guys, how you doing? Tekking here. I got a new t-shirt, Barry's the Master of Time and Space, and welcome back to the FULLBRINGERS series. That's right. Now, we had a lot of fun last time talking about Yukio's Invaders Must Die, or his Invaders Must Die. But this time, I'm gonna have to go full Nuxtaku with it, because Kubo decided to name all of the FULLBRINGs in English, just like he named all of the Arrancar and Espada techniques in Spanish. The Sternreacher, the Quincy's are of course German, and the Shinigami are Japanese techniques, you know, Kubo's native language. With the FULLBRINGs, he went English, okay? So you get like, Invaders Must Die, but no FULLBRING is more fun to say than Giriko Kutsuzawa's FULLBRING, Time Tells No Lies, or... You ready for this? Taimu Teruzu no Raizu. I love it. Taimu Teruzu no Raizu. It's the power of time and space, and it's not as cool as it sounds. I was a little bit disappointed last time when I was doing this. Like, we rolled the dice, and it was just like, oh, we're gonna do Giriko's. Alright, well, get him out of the way. And it's not... Look, it's not that his technique is bad. It actually had a lot of possibilities there. It just seemed like he had bad luck whenever he used it because, well, first off, his main opponent in the final part of the arc was against Kenpachi Zaraki. Look, I don't even care if you can masterfully control time and space. You could literally bend time and space to your whim. I would still bet all of the coins on Kenpachi Zaraki in that fight with you. You could even have, like, Jory Bonnie's ability from One Piece to, like, regress Kenpachi back into a little baby, and I would still put the money on Kenpachi Zaraki versus you. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so, Giriko Kutsuzawa, though, he is the oldest member of the FULLBRINGERS, okay? You know, Ginjo and Tsukishima are, like, in their late 20s. Maybe Ginjo might be in his 30s. He might be a little older than the other ones. Riruka and Yukio are all, like, teenagers. Jackie, I think, is, like, in her 20s. Chad is a teenager. Shishigawara is also a teenager. He was a middle school student, in fact. So, Giriko Kutsuzawa, he was, like, he gave off the impression like he was in his 50s, early 60s, something like that, okay? And so, he has the power of Taimu Teruzu no Raizu, and it takes the form of a pocket watch, okay? Now, we all went through the pocket watch phase, okay? I feel like we all went through that. We all watched the original Full Metal Alchemist, well, not Brotherhood, but just Full Metal Alchemist 2 back in, like, 2006, and we saw Edward, you know, brooding with the pocket watch, and we all thought the same thing. Man, I need to get myself a pocket watch like Edward Elric. We all went out and bought one, and we walked around high school with it. We've all been there, okay? But let's just be straight up here. Pocket watches are kind of, you know, they're kind of old-fashioned, you know, they're kind of a relic of the past. We have smartwatches now. That's why Giriko failed. If he would have just upgraded and got himself a smartwatch, then he would have defeated Kenpachi Zaraki. He might have even been able to take on freaking Yuha Bach in the final arc, right? But no, he had to stay with the damn pocket watch, and I think that's the main problem that Giriko had, alright? He was just too old-fashioned. Alright, so Time Tells No Lies is an ability that allows him to add timers onto things. This is already kind of sounding weird. This is kind of more of a vague kind of ability. It's not as simple as like, here's Toshiro Hitsugaya. What can he do? Control ice in the weather. Okay, cool. Here's Yoruichi Shihoin. Okay, what can she do? Well, she's wicked hot, and she can run really fast, and she can, you know, summon the powers of heaven themselves to strike you from on high with electricity. That seems pretty cool, right? Alright. Giriko Kutsuzawa, timers. Alright, that sounds more of like a stand ability. A stando power! Okay, I'm gonna stop doing that, but I just keep doing that, alright? I'm not planning this, it just keeps circling back around, you know? Okay, so, that seems more of like a stand power from JoJo's or something. Like, I put timers on things, set certain conditions, and then if those conditions are fulfilled, then everything's good, but if they're broken, or if they're like, you know, the timer fails before the allotted time or something like that, bad stuff happens, okay? So, the first time we saw Giriko utilize his FULLBRING was when Ichigo was in his first stage of his training, where he took out his combat pass, which I used to have an extra combat pass in here, but then I moved it, but there's one on my door, so there it is, right there. Ichigo got his combat pass, right? And he's in there, and he's trying to figure out just the basic footholds of how a FULLBRING even works. And he's inside of Riruka's dollhouse, so she used her dollhouse ability to put Ichigo inside, and then she also captures a member of the Yakuza, transforms him into Mr. Pork, who's like a stuffed animal, and Ichigo has to fight that. Alright, now, Giriko put 2 timers on the box, on the training for Ichigo. The first time timer, I think, was 15 minutes. And it's like, if Ichigo could not defeat Mr. Pork within 15 minutes, then Mad Beast mode will be activated, which contorted and changed the stuffed animal, the stuffed plushie that Mr. Pork, that the Yakuza member was in, into this hulking kind of just like, I'm Mr. Death Pork, bring it on! You know, ham punch! You know, like, okay. Now, still kind of like small, they still fit inside of the dollhouse, but like hulked him out like crazy, okay? So already that gives us the first potential of Time Tells No Lies, where it's not just a timer in the sense of like, Ichigo, you're gonna train in there, and in 15 minutes, if you can't succeed, then you're gonna be kicked out of the dollhouse, or something simple like that. No, this Fullbring does have the ability to, like, physically change and warp and contort, you know, things' bodies, you know, and to make them stronger or faster, or, you know, activate more rage, because when Mr. Pork went into that Mad Beast form, he really seemed to lose more of his reason, and just like, he's like this berserker, so to speak. So that was all Giriko's Fullbring that was capable of doing that. All Riruka did was create the setting, you know, put Ichigo and the Yakuza member into the dollhouse. Giriko's Fullbring kind of did everything else. The second timer he placed is, if Ichigo is able to survive for 30 minutes inside of the dollhouse, then he'll be allowed to leave. However, Giriko warns them, because they started freaking out when Mad Beast Mode got activated. Ichigo still has no freaking idea how to activate his Fullbring, and he's like, oh crap, I'm gonna die in here. You know, Chad and everybody kind of was like, let's pull him out. And Giriko's, no, you can't do that, because if you pull him out before the 30 minutes times are elapsed, then the God of Time will be displeased, and everything involving the dollhouse. So the dollhouse itself, Ichigo, Mr. Pork that are inside the dollhouse, as well as Chad, who would be like, let's say Chad try to like pull Ichigo out. All of the recipients that were involved in that were breaking the timer, would be engulfed in the flames of time! Woo! Yeah, the flames of time, they're a thing, they exist. That's why Giriko lost an eye, because, well, that's a story, we'll get to that in a second. But my point is, yeah, Giriko kind of warns them, pulls out his pocket watch, and he's like, you know, you must not anger the God of Time. Meddling with time is truly dangerous. Click, he closes off. He's like, now would you like some tea? God truly does dwell in amazing time. Yes, indeed. So, from first impressions alone, I like this power. It's a time-based ability, but it's different from a lot of other time powers. Introducing time manipulation abilities in your story, in your manga, or any form of fiction, it can be done, but you gotta figure out a good way to do it, alright? Just giving the character the free reign to just like, I can travel from the past and the future whenever I want, you know, with free reign like that, kind of sets that character up as like a straight up god. And if you're trying to make a character like that in the story, like, oh no, this is a straight up time god that's in the manga or whatever, and he has the ability to just travel back and forth whenever he wants. I'm like, he's like, oh, okay, you know, that's cool, you could do that. But my point is, like, if you're trying to make a character like, this is one of like the main characters of the story that we're going to be following their journey, and they are given that incredibly overpowered ability of time manipulation and time travel, like to slow time or stop time and speed it up whenever they want, that's kind of broken, and they might have to like nerf them in a major way to, like, you know, make sure like why can't they just, like, whenever they encounter an enemy, why can't they just speed up time until they're dust, you know? So time powers are kind of, you know, careful. You have to be careful how you handle them. I like the way time powers were handled in One Piece with Toki's ability, where she, you know, explained straight out, like, you cannot travel back in time. I cannot stop time. I can't do anything like that. All I can do with my power is send people into a predetermined moment into the future. That's all I can do with my power. So that at least provided, like, okay, I mean, you could still throw out, like, okay, why didn't she use it on, like, Kaido or whatever, just, like, fling him, like, a million years into the future or whatever like that, you know, but, you know, also there was, like, physical limitations to that as well, but whatever, we're not here to talk about One Piece. Point is, I'm kind of hesitant whenever I, you know, hear about, okay, this character has time manipulation. I'm like, okay, you're kind of walking on a tightrope here, see where we're going to go with this. So the first impressions, though, from... Oh, I have a workout going on, apparently. Apparently my watch thinks I'm working out right now. With Giriko's ability, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is cool. All right, let's see where this can go. Unfortunately, from that moment onward, Kubo just kind of really just... This is a ball. Oh no, I dropped my ball! Yeah, because he doesn't really get to utilize Giriko in any major way where the timing aspect ever really is, like, involved in any major way. Like, he uses it in any sort of clever or, you know, intricate way. So he uses it with the dollhouse power. I think there's also another anime-only scene where they do a similar thing with a bird cage, and there's Mr. Pork, but there's also Mr. Chicken, and Giriko kind of does the same thing with that one, with the Mad Beast mode sort of deal. So I remember that. But beyond that, Giriko doesn't really use the timer again, I think, until he fights Kenpachi. And he uses it, the way that he describes it, this was after he got powered up with Ichigo's ability. So, by the way, when Giriko got powered up, he did have a really cool design. I like the armor he got. He got, like, cool time armor with, like, the clock hands as part of the armor, and he had these, like, floating little clocks around him. But they never really did anything like the oh, he has floating clocks. That's neat. So he can like throw clocks at people, or do the clocks turn into weapons, or are they like time bombs or something? You know, they don't really do anything. They're just kind of there. His eye patch, which his eye patch is basically just it's not like a traditional eye patch. It looks like just like a straight piece of cloth that he just wrapped over his eye, like this. And it had like little like circles on it. Like, oh, are they gonna do something? No, he shows up to fight against Kenpachi. And he's extraordinarily arrogant. Like, I think what it was because Giriko was the oldest member of the Fullbringers, whenever he got Ichigo's power, he just felt that rush of just like, youthful energy! I feel like a young man again! I will destroy you, Kenpachi Zaraki! I don't even know your name, but I know I will destroy you! And so he activates, this little knob appears on his armor that's like the number 3, so he just like turns it, and he's like, the simpler the clause becomes in my timer, the stronger it actually is, okay? So if I come up with a really complicated timer with like, you know, if in 45 minutes, I'm rowing downstream in a canoe, how many pancakes can I fit in a doghouse? You know, if I do that in 45 minutes, then it's like, so it's a very complicated clause, then I guess it's weaker. But if he makes it very simple and he's just like, I'll set the timer to be like, you know, I'll be given the most epic power, physical strength in 5 minutes or something like that. Like, I'll have the most powerful physical might for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. We don't actually really know how long he specified the timer in that one instance. But he makes it really simple. Like, make me the Hulk, okay? Make me really strong. So he hulks out and he goes like, oh yeah! You know, he gets the green skin in the anime, and his, like, muscles are just like, yeah, check out these guns, Kenpachi, you're going down. I mean, what did you expect to happen? I mean, right? I mean, as soon as the fight was Giriko versus Kenpachi, you know what's gonna happen, right? Like, I don't think anybody was sitting there like, well, let's see what Giriko can bring to the table here. He did get a power-up from Ichigo, so maybe. No, it was like, Kenpachi didn't have to take off his eye patch, he didn't have to exert himself, he didn't have to go 2 hands. He just like, oh god, why couldn't I have fought against the lanky dude with the bookmark sword? Whatever. Shing, done, and then Giriko gets one-shotted, and that's it. So we didn't really get to see more of opportunities of all what he could do with it. Then again, he did do, I mean, I see where he was going with this. He was like, okay, if I make the clause of Taimu Tezu no Raizu very simple, then I get stronger. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, this is a fullbring, you know, this is a fullbring that, you know, has potential, but Kenpachi is Kenpachi, right? So it's like, whatever. So the story behind how he got this power, and it's a little weird, because I think before Giriko knew it was a fullbring, because he wasn't recruited into execution until, like, way later. Like, the Fullbringers, I don't think he knew it was a fullbringer. He knew the whole story behind how he got this power when he was younger, okay? He assumed it was the power of the god of time. Like Giriko thought it was, like, there was an actual god of time, and he chose Giriko to be, like, you know, their avatar on the human plane or some shit, right? Like, he's like, I am chosen by the god of time. Kronos himself bequeathed to me his power. You know, something like that. So he felt like, oh, my power is supreme and great and everything. So how this went was that his family, the Kutsuzawa family, was a very well-off kind of family, and they had this pocket watch called the Good Luck Watch, because whoever owned it, the head of the family, of the Kutsuzawa family, owned this watch. They were always protected from danger. Like, Giriko mentions how there was a fire that burned down their manor at one point, but the owner of the pocket watch was completely unharmed, not even a scratch on them, so they were like, oh, it's the Good Luck Watch, okay? However, Giriko follows that up immediately by saying, well, my dad died young, so he gave the watch to me. It's like, whoever has the good luck watch is protected from all things. Now, my dad died very, very young, but I got the watch and I received its good luck. I'm like, whoa, hold on here. Kind of contradictory statements, I guess? Whatever. Anyway, Giriko gets the watch when he's pretty young, and he keeps it close to him, and it's something important to him, and as we find out from Fullbringers, you know, it's like something that you really love or something that you really are fond of, like you're attuned to use like D&D terminology. If like Giriko was attuned to like his pocket watch, Ginjo was attuned to his cross pendant necklace. With Riruka, it's a lot more like stuff that she finds cute or stuff that she loves that she can use her power on. You know, Yukio really liked playing video games, so he's got the PSP, the single greatest video game console of all time, right? So anyway, Giriko keeps it, and he starts to slowly begin to understand the powers of the watch. And he starts to test it out on some things, but he's a very cruel, kind of vindictive individual, truly, and very arrogant, as we find out later. So he uses the power he becomes drunk with it. He becomes like, oh, I can use this power for anything. He mistakes it, like, the way he phrases it, like, this is what I'm talking about, because it is a fullbring. There is no god of time. It's just a fullbring ability, right? But he's building it up like it is, like this godly, divine power from someone, like, on high is giving him, okay? So he says, I foolishly believed that the power of the watch was my power, but then I understood that it was something far greater than myself. So it is his power, it's just that he mistook it for something else. So he used the power on his wife, and he set a timer of like, you know, my wife will die in 10 minutes or something like that. Like, he sets a timer to kill his wife. Yeah, that's the kind of messed up dude Giriko is, right? And so it worked, and she died. After the allotted time passed, she just dropped dead. And Giriko, though, at that exact moment, started to think to himself, I want to stop this. I want to stop the timer. Can I please stop this? I didn't actually intend for her to die. The second that happened, when she drops dead, and that he starts to have second thoughts about this, his eye just just erupts out of his head. His eye just catches on fire and it burns out of his skull. And that's how he lost his eye. So that's when he started to think like, oh, there must be a god of time that's punishing me for my transgressions. But in reality, it's just the fullbring. That's just how the fullbring was set up, okay? And so it's like, okay, so you have set rules that you have to abide by, and nobody, even the user of the fullbring, can negate the power once it's already set in motion. So once he already sets, like, I'm trying to think of a timer that you could use, like, you will go to the grocery store and procure some sweet buns, and if you are not back within the hour, you will burst into flames. Better hurry up. Oh, okay! And it's like, you just run out of the store. Holy crap, I need to get some sweet buns! Yeah, here you go! I'm like, okay, the timer has been satisfied. You will be fine. So you could do stuff like that, I guess. How exactly, like, do you... Because you start to think of, like, the basic timers you could set. Especially when later on, when he fights Kenpachi, it's like, the simpler the timer is, the stronger it becomes. Like, okay, then why not just, like, Kenpachi Zaraki, if you cannot defeat me within 1 millisecond, you will die. Ha! And then, he just explodes, like, and, well... Kenpachi, he might be able to get the job done in a millisecond, so that might not be a good example. But in any other case, he could just be like, or, not even that, like, he could set a timer that's like, see, the time aspect, it's sort of like setting conditions. Like, I set a condition and then it happens, right? But there also has to be a time aspect here. So it's like, how would this work? Would it be like, everybody I lay eyes upon in the next 10 seconds will die immediately? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to... No. I was like, I can't... The power is not strong enough to end Barry! But no, like, that's what Giriko could use, right? Like, Giriko's fighting Kenpachi. He could be like, everyone that I'm looking at for the next 5 minutes will burst into flames. Hey, I'm looking at you, and then Kenpachi just burst into flames. Once again, even if Kenpachi did burst into flames... Don't think it would kill him. It probably wouldn't kill him. He would probably burst into flames, but the puny flames of a fullbring are not enough to bring down Kenpachi. So Kenpachi would burst into flames, and he's like, Giriko would be like, whoa! And then Kenpachi would just be like, huh? What? Whatever. I get a flaming sword now. That's cool. Because, like, literally, Kenpachi went up against Gremmy with all the crazy imagination power and still survived, right? So, yeah. There was no way Giriko was getting out of that alive. Unless could he set a timer that's like, I will be sent to Brazil for the next 5 minutes. Click, and then he just gets teleported to Brazil. Like, haha! I've escaped you. I should now chill out in Rio for the next 5 minutes. And then he reappears, or screw it, he's like, I will be sent to Rio de Janeiro for the next 30 hours. And then gets popped there. It's like, could he do that? That's the thing. There's definitely limits with this. He can't just, like, set conditions to, like, blow up the moon or something. He doesn't have that level of power. But I'm wondering, you know, what extent could he really take with it? Because the only thing we really saw him do with this power is set the timer on the box and, like, alter the form of Mr. Pork, and then do the timer thing with Kenpachi with, like, make him the Incredible Hulk. And that's all we really got from this. I want to see the extent of some other stuff he can do. We did get to see another ability he was able to utilize, because I guess Kubo realized that he didn't really give Giriko a lot of, like, hand-to-hand combat kind of abilities. Like, it's timer-based, so he has to, like, pull out his stopwatch and set a timer first. He doesn't really have weapons he carries around with him, so how would Giriko fight in an actual battle? Like, someone could just walk up to Giriko and be like, Giriko would be like, but I have the power of Taibu Tezu no Lo-. Boom! Just punch him in the jaw. Like, he has no sword. He has no weaponry. He can't summon a sword like Ginjo can. He can't, like, warp you and trap you like Riruka can with just a kiss or just with the heart thing. He can't trap you in a video game, like, and save you like Yukio can. He's like, he has to, like, pull out the stopwatch and set a very specific condition and a time period. Just clock him in the jaw. Just clock him in the jaw, and then everything would be good, you know? So Kubo gave him this really kind of weird ability wherever when he was fighting Ginjo at the manor, he was able to take the numbers out of his pocket watch and, like, throw them. Like, physically take the numbers off the watch, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and throw the numbers at his opponent. We have no idea how this would even work because Ginjo avoided the attack. He threw the numbers at Ginjo, and they seem to move relatively slowly, and Ginjo was able to just use the bringer step technique to just dodge it, so we don't really know what happens. I'm assuming that if the number hits you, it would start to count down, and that's the timer, and, like, whoever has the number on their flesh when it hits 0 will burst into flames or suffer some horrible, like, or will be, like stunned or paralyzed or something like that. I'm guessing that's how the technique would work, or maybe the numbers themselves physically cut you. Like, I take out a number 8 and just, like, buzzsaw and just throw it at you, and, like, maybe that could work. Like, he's, like, getting very literal with these things here, but we never saw what would happen, but I'm assuming that's what would occur if the numbers hit you, they begin to count down. Yeah. So, yeah, that's Giriko. That's what we got in the story. He shows up in the last arc, but he does absolutely nothing. No, seriously. I'm not even exaggerating with that. I'm not even saying, like, he does nothing like, you know, like Ginjo. Ginjo technically doesn't do anything either in the final arc. It's all Yukio, Riruka, and Tsukishima are the only Fullbringers, and also Chad and Orihime are the only members that actually do stuff in the final arc, you know? Ginjo's just kind of there. Ginjo shows up, Tsukishima heals Ichigo's Bankai or restores the memory, and Ginjo just kind of gives him some words of encouragement, and that's it, right? Giriko is shown in the Soul Society at Kukaku's place because he does die. He ends up in the Soul Society alongside Ginjo and Tsukishima. We see him there at Kukaku's, kind of turned away, training at Kukaku's place. But after that, he doesn't show up when, like, Ginjo and Tsukishima arrive via Yukio's magic box. Maybe Giriko stayed in the magic box, or he was just like, I have no desire, I don't care. You know, why help out Ichigo Kurosaki? I don't give a shit. So he doesn't help him out at all. And so that's it for Giriko, I guess. I'd say out of all of the Fullbringers, he was probably the one that was given, like, the least amount of development, really. Because Yukio had the whole thing with the aspect of the video game ability was really cool for Yukio. And Ginjo was cool because we didn't get to see his full backstory, but he used to be a substitute Shinigami. That was nice. I think just Jackie growing up basically living in like a third world country that was ruled over by like drug cartels and stuff. Like Jackie's backstory is just a lot more impactful and powerful than Giriko's was. You know, Riruka is an interesting character. Love Riruka. Tsukishima, I'm not a huge fan of him, but, you know, he has some interesting powers. And even Shishigawara has, like, the jackpot knuckle, which is cooler. I think that Giriko's ability had the potential to be really cool. We just never really got to see beyond what it really could do. Maybe in, like, a light novel or something, because I did hear that light novel did expand a little bit more on the Fullbringers, but I haven't read that yet, so I gotta wait to see how that works. Is it Can't For Your Own World? I guess it would be Can't For Your Own World, yeah. So that's going to be coming out soon. I guess next month in the States, that's going to be released in English. So I'll finally get my hands on Can For Your Own World. I can finally read that damn light novel. And I know there's 3 of them, or there might be more. I think there's 3, but right now. So we'll see where that goes, right? But anyway, yeah, that's Giriko Kutsuzawa's Fullbring. Comment down below on all the really cool stuff you could do with that. If you could literally just set a condition and a timer and you could do pretty much anything. What are some more intricate, cool ways, tactical ways you could utilize that Fullbring? I'm sure we could all come up with some pretty cool stuff, right? Yeah. So okay, now comes the most fun part of any video where we get to roll a dice. Yeah, I love to roll a dice, man. I am really working it today, man. Yeah, I am working out today. All right, so for those of you that missed last time, I'll go through the chart again, the dice chart. 1 is Ginjo, 2 is Tsukishima, 3 is Jackie, 4 is Giriko, just talked about him, 5 is Riruka, and 6 is Shishigawara. I know Chad is also a Fullbringer, but maybe spend out, like we'll do the Fullbringers first, and then we'll unlock Chad, I guess. Okay, so here we go, and if we roll a number we already got, then we just re-roll. Okay, here we go. We got a 6. We got Shishigawara. Okay, so Shishigawara doesn't have a lot of screen time in this arc. He doesn't hang out with the normal group of Fullbringers. He's kind of like Tsukishima's like apprentice or whatever, but he's got the jackpot knuckle and he's got a can-do kind of personality. So next time we'll be talking about Shishigawara and the jackpot knuckle. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking signing out. Taimu Tezu no